Morning, afternoon, evening, Merry Christmas. Thanks for coming back to the channel. Thanks for coming back to another video. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. It really helps me out, and all the other YouTube cliches. Anyway, I'm trying to grow the channel, and I've got more time to put into it now. So, what we're doing today, we're doing a how-to video on a W203 generation of the C220 CDI. More specifically, we are going to be servicing it. So it'll be the same. It's an OM646 engine, so it'll be the same across. I think the W204 uses a slightly updated version of it. There'll be other cars with that in. I know the E-Class, the W211 has that same engine in it. But yeah, anyway, it's for the OM646 engine, so if you've got one of them, you're probably on the right track. But specifically, this video is working on my W203 daily C220 CDI. So when we say full service, what do we mean? We are going to be doing the cabin filter, the fuel filter, the air filter, and the oil and oil filter. So I'll put timestamps in, and also I'll try and do that chapter thing on the play bar at the bottom, progress bar, and I'll take you through it sort of step by step. And you know, I'm not trying to patronise anyone. I'll do it to make it as easy as you can. So if you've never worked on a car before, hopefully this will help you. I've had pretty good feedback on some of the other videos, the how-to videos, that have been really helpful. So I'm going to hopefully aim to reproduce that. So let's get started. So to get started, let's pop the bonnet or the hood. It's just near the steering wheel to the right. Just pop that. There is a little plastic tab that pops out. Pull that while pulling up on the bonnet. Then the thing I really like about this era of Mercedes, on the right hand side bonnet strut, at the bottom where it mounts, there is a little red button. Support the weight of the bonnet. Press that in and push up. Bonnet goes into service mode, which puts it way up, way out of the way. You're not going to whack your head. Puts it directly up, which is fantastic. Look at that. Really helpful, and I really like that. We're going to get started with the cabin filter, as it's the easiest and sort of first thing I'll do. It's up on the right hand side, if you're looking at the car from the front of the engine bay, and here's what it looks like. It's the thing that covers the battery. You'll probably taken it off if you've ever done anything to your battery. The way it's held on is, they should be in there. Just move these, they should be in there on yours. Wires routed through there, so just move them out of the way carefully. Don't know why mine isn't. And there's little clips here, so if you see this, just release them, release them, release them, and it's free. It drops out of the way. Pull it out, flip it over, and you'll see the air filter. Now it's very easy to, the cabin air filter. Now it's really easy to put the new one in because it's shaped, so you can only get it one way. This one, although it looks really dirty, it was black. It was an activated charcoal one, I think. Not necessary. It's mainly for allergies, but I have the window open most of the time when I'm driving anyway. So I just got a normal one this time because I'm not really filtering out any contaminants if my window's always open. So it's held in, there's a little lip here and two little tabs here, so you can kind of just pull it out, pull it away from those tabs. So I'll get the new one. I've gone for a MAN filter. MAN or Marley is usually pretty good, pretty safe bet, and that is the model number CU3461-1 for the MAN filter. Again, not the activated charcoal, and here it is. So we're just going to install it the same way as the other one was. So take the housing, slide one side in, under the little ridge at the back there, and just press it in. So press it where the tabs are, just press it in and around them, and that side's locked in. And then same with this one, press in there, and there we go. We have the new cabin air filter. And for reinstalling, again, very simple. You have these tabs on the back here. So this is how they work. So there'll be something there, they'll lock there, and then when you pull that back, it locks into place. So there's not quite enough room, if you have these out of the way there, there's not quite enough room to swing them without forcing it for some reason, due to the sort of scuttle panel. So I tend to leave them in that way, like sort of the over position, and just feed them over in the first place. Make sure it's all lined up to seal up, and then you can just pull these back and tension them in place. So these are the clips that you play with. So to unlock, push that way, and to lock again, you have them over, and you just pull this little tab back and it clips them in place. So there are these little sort of alignment tabs here, so just make sure you slot in this bit under there and then tension it. And now it's back in place. It's free floating, so it looks a bit weird, but there. And that's your cabin air filter done. Next, I'm going to do the air filter, and it is located under the main engine cover. I've put some gloves on for this because it might be a bit dirty. So it's located here. So what I'm going to do for that is take the engine cover off. And it simply just lifts off. There's nothing securing it. So get your hands firmly under it, and it's just on these little captive devices, and that's the engine cover off. You see sort of the foam insulation. This is the breather. I think it's the part of the PCV crankcase ventilation rocker cover breather, whatever you want to call it. The terms. That's part of that, which we'll be changing at one point. So I'll make another video because mine's got a bit of build up and whatnot. Anyway, the air filter is this tube here. So all the way around, there's again little tabs, and even including some down the backside, which are a bit fiddly to put back on. So you can pull off these with your fingers, but what I recommend is get a big flat blade screwdriver, put it against the body, and just prise them off. And the captive on the bottom, so they won't go flying off, you won't lose them in the engine bay. So there's two here, one around the back, and then one around the other side at the back near the oil filler neck. And then there is a little securing tab on the front here where this arrow is. So how I remove it, lift off at the back, kind of lift this up and out and away, and there's your air filter. Housing down to the side. Now just take a minute to look how this goes. So you know, if you need to, get your new filter and compare it. Basically, there's a bit of a lip here. This air filter comes in and sits into that and sits down into the thing. So mine's quite dirty, so it's a good job we're doing it. Take this off and just notice the orientation. Doesn't really matter this way or that way, you know, rotationally wise. It's identical on the back. But yeah, just make sure obviously you're putting the open end towards the breather bit. So now if your housing is a bit dirty, give it a quick wipe, which I am going to do. It's a bit dirty in there, so we don't want it to be sucking any of that stuff in. First, I'm going to concentrate. Be careful near the mass airflow sensor is in here. Mass airflow sensor is in here, so you don't want to soak this bit where the tube connects. But I'm going to wipe the rim around that as it's quite dirty where it seals. So if you've got a bad seal, air's going to be running past it, which we don't want. Again, I'm just being careful to not soak inside the actual MAF sensor. Just clean the remote. You can see how dirty that is from like 2 seconds of wiping. So, and then just give the airbox a general wipe. If you have compressed air, now would be a good time to blow the rest of the crap out, or you could do that at the beginning and just leave it at that if you don't want to introduce any moisture. This is the new MAN air filter. Here's the part number C220 Big tube. And as you can see, it matches the old part. So this is what seals around this little lip in here. So I'm just going to come in this way, put it around there, and you will notice in the housing there is a place for these to slot into. There's like a little jaws for these to go into. So place that in there, make sure it's on there, and then just push that down until it rests in there. It doesn't really clip in, it just kind of rests. And that's when you'll know it'll be solid at both ends and it's in. So now, just to put the cover back on, top of the airbox housing. Come in again from this way, reverse of how we took it off, put that little sort of tab in there, that locking tab, and lever it down and into position. What you want to make sure you do here is just make sure it's all the way around and it's sat correctly all the way around, and there's no bits of air filter sticking out. You can't see any of the housing below, it's just all sealed in. And then these two side ones you can just clip in with your thumbs, just push them on from the side, and same with the back one. The one on that side's annoying. You can kind of, because of the shape of these, you can kind of lever it in with a flathead. There we go. So I just pushed against the engine block and levered it on. Again, it's a bit annoying, but whatever. Okay, and that's the air filter changed. Easy as that. 2-minute job. I've made it way longer than it needs to be by talking about it. So again, engine cover's still off. and fuel filter is located here. So this is showing you where it is, and that's what it looks like. So basically how it's connected is there are two hoses on top with these sort of one-time use Jubilee clips. Now I've used these a few times. There is a trick to get them off which I'll show you. However, if you get them off and can't get them back on, normal Jubilee clips will be fine, or you can ideally you can buy new ones of these. I'm sure they have a specific name. I don't know. I just reuse these. So it's located here. So there's these two ones. Obviously, don't mix them up when you're reinstalling, and then it's in a housing, and it does just pull out. If I remember, I don't think you have to loosen anything. I'm lying to you. There's a screw down the back which holds like the two halves of this clamshell type connector together. So there's a screw down the back with a Torx bit, and you can just loosen that and it'll open it up. But I'll show you that when we come to it. Let's take off these hoses first. So I'll show you the trick for these. So the way to take these out is, if you look at it from the side, you can see like the raised bit, and that's where they attach together. And basically there's a gap underneath, and you can slot a very small screwdriver or even a pick in there and open it up. Easy as that. So slot that in, sort of twist it a little bit, and it'll just open them up. You see how it just loosens up now? Okay. When you want to put them back together, all you do is get some pliers across both of these raised bits, pull them together, and it latches itself on. Easy as that. So there will be a bit of diesel here, but it's, you know, you're going to be fine. It's not going to explode. You can put a cigarette out in diesel. It's fine. So remove these in any order you want. There we go. Both of them off. You can move them out of the way, hook them behind something. Tuck them away, and now you see how they are located. So down the back, if you're looking at it from the side here, or if you're looking at the front, it's just down the back here, you'll see a little screw. That is an Allen head actually. Okay, loosen that off with a very small socket. Allen head, and a small ratchet. And you're not looking to take it out, you're just looking to loosen it enough so that you can pull this out. So what I'd advise is, when you try and pull it out, grab it by the spouts, and you can rotate it enough, and then you can get a firm hold on it and just twist, give it a twist, pull it out. You know, it'll come out. Now this will be full of diesel, so you put that in whatever containment measure is appropriate in your country, and then you've got a big hole here for the new filter to go in. New fuel filter, again, MAN WK820/1. You'll have little protective caps on the flanges here. Take those off, put the new fuel filter in with the flanges pointing backwards towards the back of the car, and just push it in, should be fine. Secure that in place. Well, just make sure your hoses go on fine. I think there was a slight angle to this. Yeah, that looks about right. Make sure you can reach, you know, you haven't got it in a completely different place or whatnot. A bit awkward because the gearbox dipstick's right there, so you're kind of quite limited on range of motion and getting your hands in, but not exactly the fiddliest job in the world, so just something to be aware of. You don't want to do this mega tight, just enough to hold the fuel filter in place. So. And then you want to put the hoses back on, so put the small one back on first, put it right up, make sure it's right seated against this secondary sort of lip, and then put the big one back on. Okay, now as for these clips, like I say, I'll show you what I do with that, so I'll bring you in. So hopefully you can see how they are now separated. And what I'll do is I'll get some grip. There's two raised bits, so there's a bit, you'll see it's in two halves, and you see where they want to go back together. So have those pointing upwards. Grab the two raised bits, squeeze them together, and there you go. It's clamped back down, and that is solid. That ain't going anywhere. Unless you've done this a million times with those ones, it's not going to loosen them that much, or you've really moved them out of the way and distorted them when you're taking them off. But again, in a pinch, a normal Jubilee clip would do just fine. But for the sake of, you know, factory appearances and all that, there we go, it's on now. Okay, so that's nice and tight, not going anywhere, and that is the fuel filter done. Now just make sure you follow what I tell you to do when you're starting the car. You don't just want to crank and crank and crank and crank and crank the car over, because it'll take ages to fill it up. It is a self-priming system, and the fuel pump does prime on ignition in these, and it's self-bleeding as well, sorry. So I'll show you what to do, but basically just turn the ignition on and off loads and let it run for a couple of seconds. So you'll hear the fuel pumps priming, but I'll show you that when we come to start the car. Last but not least is the oil. So we want to change the oil. And basically what we're going to do to start off is we're going to crack off the oil filter. That'll allow all the oil in there to drain down into the oil pan to make sure we get as much of the oil out as possible. The oil filter is right down at the front there, just there. So it's a bit awkward, you kind of got to go under this hose and around the belt. And it's just normal orientation, so it opens anti-clockwise. So if I pull this really tight, now this is a bit, like I say, it slips a bit, but it does do the job. Like, see how that's moving now? There we go. Yeah, so you just want to do this until it's loose enough, and then you can basically get both your hands on it and pull it out. Now I've loosened it up with a pair of gloves on for a bit of extra grip. I can just wind it out. Look, and my grip isn't exactly the strongest, so I'm sure you'll be able to do this. Okay, so with the car nicely secured, it's got the handbrake on, which doesn't really do much. Got chocks under the rear wheels and it's in park. Mine's automatic, like 90% to do that. There's a central jacking point underneath the car, sort of if you look at the middle of the bumper, go back a few inches, maybe half a foot or so. I'm a bloke, I'm not good at measuring size. There's a central jacking point. It's just like a big rubber pad like that, and you can use that to jack the car up, and then we can go to the jacking points on either sill and put jack stands under there so we can safely and securely get under the car. Okay, trying to get a full-size camera under the car is never great, but basically you now have an under tray which is covering the oil drain plug. So you can take off all these that you can see. I believe they're 8mm. If not, I will put something up on the screen. But if you don't hear anything, assume they're 8mm. So there's one there, one there. Well, there was one there on mine. You'll likely have a few of these missing. Go all the way around the front, and then you will have to do where it meets with the sort of middle section of the under tray, sort of back there. So yeah, just be aware of that. You'll have to do that, and then this full under tray will come down, crashing down in your head, no doubt, if it's your first time you've done it. But move that out of the way, and then we can proceed on to the next step. So I'm just going to do that. I can't really film it under here, but I'll show you the after. Okay, so once we've taken that first under tray off, you'll see like this jacking point which we used, and then what you'll have to do is you will have to take that second under tray off. So you'll see the remaining bolts. There's just a couple, and I found it easy to go in through the side where the car's jacked up. Going through the side, just reach through with either a socket, or I've got a little stubby impact gun because I'm lazy, but it does make it a hell of a lot easier because you can just zip them out. Once you've taken the second under tray off, you can go back and you can find the bottom of the engine, and where my socket is hanging from, where my ratchet is hanging from, is a 13mm nut. And it's kind of the lowest point. You'll see where it is. It's quite apparent. It's on the side, and that is the oil drain plug. So what you want to do is get some sort of container underneath to catch all the oil. Don't let it go everywhere. Have some rags ready, and you can crack that open, back it out, and then pull the drain plug out and start draining the oil and catch it all. I'll catch you back when we're doing that. Okay, so we can see the oil is dribbling out into there nicely. Just keep some pressure on the sump plug while you're undoing it, pushing it into the thread almost while you're backing it out, and then you'll feel when it's gone, and you can just pull it away real quickly, and there shouldn't be too much drips or spillages. Make it drain a bit faster. I've opened the oil filler neck and just made sure that's like sort of the oil filter housing is sort of a jar, not a jar, it's an oil filter housing. Hey. You want to make sure the car is somewhat warm. You don't want it to be boiling because you're going to scald yourself, but you do want it to be warm enough so that you're not trying to take treacle out of the car, because it's going to take out, it's going to get everywhere. It's going to be real thick and lumpy, hard to work with, and also you're probably not going to get as much out of it because there's still going to be some in all the oil channels and valleys. There's going to be some left in the bottom of the sump. Now I know obviously I'm on a slope here anyway, and then I've jacked it up, so I'm not going to get 100% out, but I'm going to get most of it out. Okay, change the oil filter. Again, a MAN filter, or Marley. Some people use Bosch. I just use MAN. It's fine. There are OE manufacturers for a lot of companies anyway. HU718-1K. Does it come with a crush washer? That's the question. No, they never seem to. Buy a crush washer. I haven't. I'm going to reuse my old one. Wouldn't advise it. I would advise getting a fresh crush washer every time. However, at the minute I don't have my own car to nip out and go grab another one, and I can't really be bothered. So it's annoying. They used to come with them, all oil filters, but hey ho, cutbacks and all that. So you get the oil filter in this, so that goes in there. I'll show you in a second. And you get 3 O-rings, and I'll show you what they're for. So the old oil filter assembly out. this is what it looks like. So you have the oil filter itself, and this is like the housing. So if you see where the O-rings are for, you've got one here, and one here, which is the sealing one at the top. So to take the actual oil filter off, just pull it out. And this is the filter itself, the paper cartridge style that you're going to be removing. And here's the housing. So like I say, we'll change these O-rings. So let's do that. I'll set you up down there. Okay, so it wasn't filming when I was removing the O-rings, that's good. Basically, they're on there, such as this. Oh, I'll put it back on for you. That's really annoying that it wasn't filming, because I thought it was. And there's three of them, like I say, I pointed them out, and you basically just, you take a small pick or screwdriver, try not to damage the housing, being very careful, and just take them out, and just repeat that. So I'm just wiping it down where the seal, where the O-rings go now, where the seal, get as much of that sort of old carbonated stuff off. Definitely want to wear some gloves for this if you can. Okay, that's nice and clean. We can go about reinstalling the new ones. And you want to put a dab of fresh engine oil on the O-rings before you reinstall them. Not old engine oil, and it can be abrasive, it's got all the stuff that's broken down in the engines on. In the engines, plural. So I'm using Fuchs Titan Super Sin 5W40. So I've got some left over from last year, and I've got a new bottle in there, so it's fine to use oil after a year if it's been sealed back up after use, you haven't left the lid off, and it's been in sort of a moderate climate. Again, we're in the UK, so it's kind of just, yeah, it's not frozen and, you know, whatnot over time. It's not boiled. So, open the O-rings. You'll see as well, they're really dry and chalky at the minute, because that's how they come. Fresh engine oil. Soak the O-rings. You'll see where it goes in the groove, or just pay attention when you're taking it off, but there's a big groove for it, for the big one. Next, get the oil filter housing assembly and the cartridge, and it can go either way, it don't really matter. Put it on, feel a bit of resistance, push it down, and then push it right down. You'll hear and feel it click into place. So if I take this off again, listen for that. So it's down as sort of as far as you can do it lightly, and then pop into place. Screw this back in. Again, make sure there's lots of oil on the top of the O-ring. Some people pre-fill this housing. I don't, and I've never seen any premature engine wear. So, you know, it's personal preference, I think. Okay, and just tighten it up until the point where you're going to have to use a tool. And then we just want to lightly nip it up with a tool. There is a torque setting on these of 25 Newton meters. However, I don't have the special tool, so I can't really do that. Yeah, you just want to nip it up. You're not trying to crush it on. You'll feel when it naturally wants to stop anyway as it bottoms out. All that's left to do now is put the sump plug back in. So again, use a new washer, tighten it back up till it's pretty tight. Again, there will be a torque setting, but I just do it pretty tight. And then put the under trip back on. So put the rear one back on first, put the front one back on, and then we'll put the car back down, and I'll talk you through filling some oil. Okay, now everything's back and secure, and there is no hole in the bottom of the engine because we'll put the plug in. Time to fill it up with oil. So for the C220 CDI W203 specifically, but I'm sure it'll be again similar or the same for just the OM646 block. The oil capacity is stated as 6.5 litres, so it's UK litres. Don't know if American litres are different, are they? I don't know, let me know in the comments. So we're going to fill in through the filling neck here, and there is no actual dipstick on here, which is why it's important to check the manual for the actual stated capacity. Usually with cars I just throw, well, 4 or 5 litres in and then check it and just keep checking it, add an half a litre, and that serves you well, but there's no dipstick in here, it's an electronic one, so we'll put the stated capacity in, put it on level ground, and we'll check it through that method in the dash controls. So 6.5 litres. I did get a funnel, I'll see if it's any good. Stick that in there. Okay, so I'm in the car now. I filled it up with oil to 6.5 litres. What I'm going to do is, like I say, obviously the fuel filter's empty. So first I'm going to put a window down because it's boiling. But put the key in the ignition, and then just turn it, and turn it again to position 2, 3. Basically the point where everything is on but before the car starts. And then you want to give it a couple of seconds, turn it off, take the key back out, do the same again. And what this does is it's priming the fuel pump. So the fuel pumps, usually there's loads of pressure in there anyway, and all it has to do is just take up any tiny little bits of gaps in there. But what it's doing now is it'll just be filling that oil, the fuel filter, so there'll be no pressure loss. So I'm going to do this, I don't know, as many times as you can be bothered to do. 5 or 6. And then the next one I'll attempt to start it. Now don't be concerned if it don't start straight away. Might crank for a while. Okay. Seems to have sorted. It might cut off in a second. I'm just going to let it run. Car's on a concrete slab, so it's nice and level. So to check the oil level on these, turn the ignition on. And cycle through using these buttons here. The default one, so where the time is. Up, up, up. There we go. Observe waiting time. And now, this is going to be a ludicrous amount of time. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes. Yeah, just wait. And it'll go off, and you can just give it a couple of minutes, go back to it. Okay, so I just found something out. So if the engine is cold, which mine was by the time I'd done the service and filmed and tidied up and whatnot, or cooler than it needs to be, it's half an hour that you need to wait. If it's hot, it's 5 minutes. So there you go. Put it down. Engine oil level measuring in progress. The vehicle must be level for correct measurement. So now we wait. Engine oil level okay. And it's really frustrating that it doesn't actually tell you what the engine oil level is. But it said it's okay. So how do we reset the service intervals? Put the key into ignition 2. Service A and 7 days, fine. Okay, so from the main menu we need to go to that. Whereas it'll either say service A or service B in whatever, or it might say service exceeded, or it might just, you know, there may be a message somewhere similar to that. You need to press, see the trip reset button here, hold it, press and hold it, and you'll get that. Service interval to reset, press reset button for 3 seconds. So again, just press this for 3 seconds, it'll beep until you've done it. There you go, service interval has been reset. Service B, because I've just done a service A, well, I do everything, but whatever, in 10,000 miles, so now you won't get any message on startup, so if I... There you go, no, nothing there. Service B in 10,000 miles, there you go. That's how to reset it. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to wash the engine bay, which I will film, but if you want to leave now, I totally understand that, but I always do it after a service, just give it a blast and clean it down. I'm going to drive around the block, drive up to, I don't know, until correct on engine temperature, and then I will make sure that the engine oil level is still okay. So if you're going to leave me there, thanks for watching. Please do consider subscribing, it really helps me out and shows me that you enjoy these videos and the how-to videos, and I'll make sure I keep doing as many as I can. And please like the video, comment, if there's any questions, let me know. And if you want to, stick around for the engine bay wash, which again I am going to film. Thank you.